Robin Gibb was often seen as the quiet twin of the Bee Gees, the gentle voice that gave life to some of the group's most enduring classics. But behind the soft vibrato and soulful delivery, Robin lived a life far more turbulent than most fans ever imagined. In 1981, FBI agents were investigating him for death threats. At just 17, he began using a potent drug that kept him awake for days at a time. By his 30s, he had engaged in over 100 affairs and was even banned from seeing his own children for 6 years. For those closest to him, Robin's increasingly erratic behavior became frightening. To the public, he was a gifted musician. In reality, he was a man spiraling dangerously out of control. Robin Hugh Gibb was born early on the morning of December 22, 1949, at 3:15 a.m., 35 minutes before his twin brother, Morris, at the Jane Crookall maternity home on the Isle of Man. That small gap in time became something of a family symbol. Robin, always just a little ahead, the more introspective and thoughtful twin, while Morris grew into the more playful and relaxed one. Their father, Hugh, paced the hospital floor as their mother, Barbara, endured a long labor. In post-war Britain, surviving a difficult birth was no small thing, and the arrival of the Gibb twins marked the beginning of a family that would one day change music forever. Music was in their blood. Hugh Gibb, a drummer and bandleader, played in clubs across England and Scotland. He wasn't famous, but he was well known in local circles, and his love for performance filled the Gibb household. Barbara also had a beautiful voice and sang with bands. Nights at home were filled with jazz rhythms and melodies, a soundtrack the Gibb children absorbed before they could even speak. Music wasn't just a hobby in their home, it was part of the family's identity. In the mid-1950s, the Gibb brothers Barry, Robin, and Morris weren't the polished pop stars they would one day become. In Manchester, they had a reputation as troublemakers. They skipped school, broke into shops, and even started small fires. Once, they set fire to a billboard and a mailbox, alarming neighbors and embarrassing their parents. Robin himself was once dragged home by the ear after being caught red-handed, but mischief soon gave way to ambition. One day, at just 8 years old, Robin told a neighbor, "We're going to be rich one day. We're going to form a band." People laughed, but Robin meant it. By 1958, money was tight and hope was fading. Manchester was cold and gray, and the family decided to start over. Hugh and Barbara signed up for a government program that relocated families to Australia. The voyage by sea took nearly 2 months, and the Gibbs arrived in Redcliffe on September 1, 1958, with little more than faith and a few suitcases. Within weeks, the boys were performing at the local speedway, singing on the back of a truck between races. Instead of applause, the crowd threw coins, and the boys scrambled to collect them off the dirt track. For the first time, they were getting paid to sing. It was a speedway worker named Bill Good who introduced them to a local DJ named Bill Gates, who helped coin their new name, the Bee Gees. In 1963, when Barry was just 17 and Robin and Morris were only 13, Festival Records signed them. The studio was basic and recordings were done live. Mistakes meant starting over, but the brothers didn't mind. They were finally in the door. Their early songs were raw but showed glimpses of the harmony that would set them apart. By 1966, however, their contract was on the verge of being dropped. Working day and night in a small studio, they produced Spicks and Spakes, a song that shot to number 4 nationally and even topped charts in some areas. It was their first major breakthrough, and soon television shows across Australia were booking them regularly. But Australia was only the beginning.
He saw it as proof
In January
that his ideas no longer
1967,
mattered.
the brothers returned to England. Unknown to them, their demise had already impressed Polydor Records. Within weeks, they signed a 5-year contract with manager Robert Stigwood, who promoted them as the next big thing. Their debut UK single, New York Mining Disaster 1941, released in April 1967, became their first international hit. Robin's trembling vibrato gave the haunting ballad a unique power, and within months, they followed with Massachusetts, which became their first UK #1 and a chart topper in 12 countries. This period solidified Robin's reputation as the voice of quiet heartbreak, and his vocal style became the emotional core of their early success. In 1968, Robin wrote "I Started a Joke" after hearing the steady hum of a propeller plane's engines. The song, simple and melancholy, became one of his most memorable performances and would later serve as a posthumous tribute. But the pace of fame took its toll. In July 1968, Robin collapsed from nervous exhaustion at just 18. His health faltered and tensions with Barry over creative control escalated. When Robin's song Lamplight was relegated to the B-side in favor of Barry's 1st of May, Robin saw it as a betrayal. In March 1969, at only 19 years old, he quit the Bee Gees. Robin's first solo single, Saved by the Bell, became a hit in Europe, but without him, the Bee Gees struggled. In 1970, after a difficult year apart, Robin reunited with Barry and Morris. The 1970s were a turbulent time creatively, but in 1975, a move to Miami and the influence of producer Arth Martin helped reinvent their sound. Barry's falsetto on Nights on Broadway marked the start of their disco era, and hits like Jive Talking and You Should Be Dancing propelled them back to the top. In 1977, they were asked to contribute songs to a small film called Saturday Night Fever. In a matter of days, they wrote Stayin' Alive, Night Fever, How Deep Is Your Love, More Than a Woman, and If I Can't Have You. The soundtrack sold over 40 million copies, became a cultural phenomenon, and cemented the Bee Gees as global icons. But behind the glitter, Robin's personal life was unraveling. At 17, he had started using methadone, a powerful amphetamine, which kept him awake for days but eroded his health and stability. His marriage to Molly Hullis collapsed amid drug use, infidelity, and public scandal. In 1981, the FBI investigated him for sending death threats to his estranged wife and her lawyers. Though charges were never filed, it was clear Robin's life was spiraling. Through the 1980s and beyond, Robin and his brothers continued to write hits for other artists, including Barbra Streisand's Woman in Love, Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton's Islands in the Stream, and Diana Ross's Chain Reaction, but personal tragedies continued. In 2003, Robin's twin Morris died suddenly from complications during surgery, leaving Robin devastated. He once said it felt like half his soul had been ripped away. In 2011, Robin was diagnosed with colon cancer. Despite undergoing treatment, by April 2012 his condition worsened. On May 20, 2012, Robin Gibb passed away at the age of 62. In his final days, he spoke of Morris, telling family how much he missed his twin. At his funeral, How Deep Is Your Love played his final request. For all the fame, scandals, and extraordinary success, Robin's story was ultimately defined by love, loss, and a voice that could make the world stop and listen.